Good evening. Are we on? We're live now? Okay. Good evening. I'm Susan Drummond, City of Pasco, hearing examiner. Today is Wednesday evening, June 12th, 2019, about 6 o'clock p.m. We have 4 items on the agenda. One is a setback variance. The second is a special permit for a mini storage facility. And the last 2 items are rezones. The first is from C1 to R1, and then the second is from R2 to Industrial 1. It looks like that's been changed to a proposal to rezone to C3. The order of procedure on all 4 of these matters will be the same. We'll hear first from the Planning Department. They'll provide a summary of the proposal, and the Planning Department has provided me with a staff report and attachments describing each of the proposals, and I have reviewed that staff report and attachments for each of the proposals. And I also visited all 4 of the sites this afternoon about 4 p.m., between 4 p.m. and 4:30. I did not enter the sites, but drove by each of them. Following the Planning Department presentation, the applicant will have an opportunity to present on the proposal. And then following that, we'll open this up for public comment, and anyone who is here who wishes to testify on the proposal being reviewed may do so. And the applicant will have an opportunity to address questions which arise. The Planning Department may have clarifications during the proceeding, and I may have questions throughout. Are there any questions from anyone on tonight's procedure? Okay, I think what I'm going to do, just for efficiency purposes, so I'm going ahead and swear everyone in who intends to provide testimony tonight. So if you could raise your right hand and answer the question after I state it in the affirmative. Do you swear to tell the truth under penalty of perjury under the laws of the state of Washington to tell the truth this evening? Thank you. So with that, we'll start first with the setback variance proposal, if I can hear from staff on that.
Thank you, Ms. Drummond. This request is for a setback variance at 802 South 13th Avenue. The property is located on 13th Avenue and West A Street. The variance request is for 2 existing porch structures that have been constructed on the site. The request itself is for variances from the street frontage setbacks and the side yard setbacks, along with the that go along with the proposed structures. And we'll have photos of those. There they are. 1, a second, and then the home itself. The staff report contains a number of proposed findings of facts, and they've been measured against the requirements for variance applications contained in the Pasco Municipal Code. Unless there's questions of me right now, at least, I'll defer to the applicant in this case, and I'll certainly be available to answer any questions.
Okay, and just so this, one of the setbacks, it would be reduced to 5 feet along, this is on page 2 of the staff report, but just to clarify, 5 feet along with the west A feet, and would leave approximately 15 feet along the south 13th property line. Is that correct? What the resulting would be if it were granted?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yes, is the applicant here? Yes, if you could step forward. And we'll testify at the podium so we can capture everything on the record.
Hi.
Good evening.
Good evening. It's actually
And if you could state your name for the record.
Melanie Cantu.
Thank you.
Hi. It's actually 1 porch cover and 2 decks. And they know that because I submitted, do I put it under there or give it to you?
Yeah, if you wanted me to view something, yes, you can submit that on there.
So it's,
And I believe that diagram is attached to the staff report. Is that the?
no, it is not.
Oh, it's not. This is, looks very similar, but yeah, we can
No,
add it
it's
as.
not that one. It's the one under here.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
sorry.
Will it show up on this screen? Oh, momentarily. Okay. And we can add it to the record after if you like.
Okay.
Does he have to press a button or something to make it?
Not sure.
Okay.
Oh, sweet. I guess we only need this. So it's the, oops, do I have to? So it's the porch cover in the front, and these were just meant for curb appeal, like a railing, but they're just gonna be solar caps, I guess, at this point.
Okay. And that's what I observed today is what is in the
They have
plan
it on
here. Is
file.
yeah, because they've been put up. Okay. Do you know about how much bigger the porch cover in that area is than, because it's a legal non-conforming use is my understanding. And then the porch cover extended a little bit beyond that. I didn't know by about how much. And staff may know the answer to that question, so I could ask them as well if you don't.
Yeah, or the thing is that I didn't add any more to the house. I purchased the house the way it is, and I just remodeled
Oh, I see.
it.
So okay. So you bought the house after the improvements had been made?
No.
No. Okay.
Or yes, they were the size is the same. Which is argument.
You mean
I just remodeled them.
the size is the same as the old house? Because the old house did have porch and porch coverings. There's some pictures in the record on showing the previous how it was designed before these improvements.
Yes.
So-
And when I went in there and I asked when these pictures were taken, they couldn't really give me an answer because they're Google images.
It looks like they're a little bit larger, but I'll check with staff on that question.
Okay.
Yeah. Is there anything further that you wanted to address this evening?
Yes. And then on page 2,
Of the staff report?
yes. It says, staff informed applicant that the porch covers would be allowed to be rebuilt as long as they were the same size as the originals. Applicant claimed not to know the original patio cover dimensions. That part's not not completely accurate, because I received this email. I've been going back and forth with them regarding this, and I received an email from Hosanna saying, per the planning department, you will need to modify the stairs and porch covers facing South 13th A Street so that they match the same footprint as what was existing. So I got the email with those pictures, and I came in and said, well, when I purchased the house, I didn't, they weren't like this. So what are the dimensions to that? And they didn't know.
Okay.
And then I received this third image, which has the house existing on the same attachment email, which is the house right now. So I was kind of like, okay, you want me to go back to something where I don't know where you got it from, because that's not what the house looked like when I bought it. And then what the house is now is on the same attachment that you want.
Okay.
And so then I've just kind of been going back and forth, and I finally just did the appeal.
Okay. And technically, it's not an appeal; it's an application for
Or
a
an
variance.
application
but
for a
yeah,
variance, or,
yeah,
yeah,
but
they said it was a,
yeah. But so, did you want to add that diagram to the record, or to provide it to me so I have the copy?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, if you could step forward and bring it to me. Yeah. And yeah, if you don't give it to me, then I won't have it for the record.
Would you like the email with it too?
The email.
Email that I'm talking about, where it's telling me to look at that.
You can provide do you have a paper copy?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. We'll add it to the record. Okay, thank you. Okay.
And then I would also like to point out that, can I put this under the?
Yes,
screen?
absolutely.
So that is the parcel area. So whatever I put, the thing in question was the property lines. This one here is, the whole house sits within the 15 feet required setback. So I can't really, no matter what I do there or is there, it's gonna be not in requirements.
Yeah, I noticed it's a narrow site.
And then the one in the front, when I went in and asked where this line was, they weren't able to, they don't know exactly. So,
Okay. Did you want to add that to the record as well? What you just,
sure.
although I do have photographs of that, but yeah, go ahead and we'll add that as well. So, thank you.
And then, and the original structures, when it's telling me to go back, or that were rebuilt against the original structures, those structures were already there when I purchased the home.
Yeah. And
So I don't see how to go back to something that we don't even know the dimensions to over pictures doesn't exactly seem very just, but I guess any more.
thank you.
Okay.
Is there anyone from the public who wished to provide testimony on this proposed variance? Let the record reflect there's not anyone here who wished to provide testimony. Just back to staff on that, do we know what the existing dimensions of the original structure were? I know it enlarged it, I mean, it looked like it did enlarge it a little bit. Wasn't sure by how much.
No, I'm hesitant to say. I don't know exactly, and I would prefer to do a little research on that before I provide an answer.
Okay, all right. Can I still speak to this? Yes, the record remains open, so yes, you may step forward. And if you could state your name for the record.
Caleb Stromstead, Octare Engineering. No, I've not met the applicant before, but just in general, when you're using aerial photographs to compare, depends on where the satellite is. You can compare those images. You can tell the house is skewed. So to really measure where the house is
Right.
represented to a property line, it's literally impossible.
Okay, yeah, I won't take those for measurements. At this point,
Okay.
we don't have, I think, evidence of kind of what the difference and the changes are.
Just wanted to
so.
clarify that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I understand the improvements were made without the necessary permits and without the variance which would be required if it to expand a legal non-conforming use. But I think the way I'll view this under the variance criteria that I'm required to look at is to set that piece aside because that's more of a rather code enforcement piece. And so I'll look at the criteria against this proposal rather than looking at this as if the applicant created the situation. I mean, they did create the improvement, but the underlying conditions of the site, they do have unique conditions here because of the narrowness of the site. So that's the way I will look at the proposal and assessing the criteria, I think. So, but I think on this, we'll leave the record open just in case there is some information on the change in terms of the size from the original structure to the present structure. But it looks like this would meet minimum like fire code, correct? Like I think it's 5 foot and.
No, Ms. Drummond, I would agree. The fire code, I don't believe is an issue here. And as in terms of the findings, staff actually has made the first two findings in
Right.
the affirmative for the applicant, aside from the.
Yeah, I saw that, and the only question was, whether the applicant created the situation or not, and I think I'm going to look at that a little bit not through that particular lens, just because you can look at it as a code enforcement matter, and which is a slightly different track. So, but it would be useful to have the original dimensions. So I'll keep the record open. How much time would be helpful on that?
Probably at least 7 working days.
Okay, so we'll just keep it open a week through.
Okay.
I think next Wednesday. What is the date on? So today's the 12th, so that would be the 19th. Yeah, and there's no SEPA required on this, so we'll keep it open through the June 19th. And then I will make a decision on this within 10 days. It looks like there's a question on procedure from, yeah, if you can step forward so we can catch it on the microphone, and just restate your name for the record. Although,
Melanie Cantu, and I just wanted to make sure is it like another hearing on the 19th?
No. So what's going to happen is I'm keeping the record open, and it's not for public testimony, but if there's any additional written material, you certainly may provide it. But I had a specific question about the size of the original structure for staff to provide. So they'll look into that, and there may or may not be information on that, and that's fine if there's not. But if there is, I think it would be helpful to have that in the record. And certainly if you wish to provide anything else by Wednesday to the planning department, close of business 5 p.m. is that. Then you may do so as well. And then I'll issue a decision on this within 10 days, and that'll be emailed to the planning department, and they'll provide that to you. So does that answer your question on procedure?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I think unless there are any further questions from staff on that, we will move to the next item on the agenda, which is the special permit. And this is for the mini storage and commercial facility. And there was an Exhibit 1. There was a comment on this that was added to the record, and I do have a copy. And this is, I think, from the neighboring property owner. It was an email. And I did receive a copy of that, and have looked at that.
Thank you. This item is regarding a special permit, an application for a mini
And if you
storage.
could state your name just for the record.
I'm sorry, Jacob Gonzalez?
Yep.
This is an application for a special permit for the location of a proposed mini storage facility located in a C1 zone. The site consists of 6.86 acres located just north of Sandifer Parkway, between Bedford Street and Midland Lane. The site is currently zoned C1 for retail business and surrounded by other commercial businesses and services, along with higher density residential just to the north of the proposed site. The Pasco Municipal Code permits mini storage facilities through a conditional use as identified in the PMC. There was the site plan provided by the applicant, and as noted in the findings of fact, has added some buffer to the north of the proposed mini storage facility, provides some buffer between the storage units and the residential housing to the north. It meets all the
How wide is that buffer on there? This is from the residential zoning?
Yes. I don't have the exact measurement of that, but the applicant is here who may be able to answer that specifically.
Because it looks like there's some specific requirements in the corridor overlay district that would kind of govern some of that, so.
Yeah.
I'll let the applicant address that.
And in the proposed conditions for approval of this, besides the parcels for which this is to apply for and the conformance of the 182 corridor overlay zone, we would like to remove the condition regarding a dedication of 30-foot right-of-way between or to the south of the property. We would like to remove that from the proposed conditions.
Okay. One question just on the process in terms of confirming compliance with the overlay and presenting kind of the final site plan. Does that happen before the building permit issues? Is that kind of the timing on that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Anything further at this time?
No.
Okay. Is the applicant here? Yes, if you could step forward. If you could state your name for the record.
Caleb Stromstead, Octera Engineering, representing the applicant, Big Sky Developers.
And could you spell your last name?
Stromstad, yes, Stromstad.
Thank you.
Just like to thank hearing examiner for being here tonight, city staff for preparing this report. We are in agreement with the city staff report, their recommendation for approval. We believe it is consistent with the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan and the zoning ordinances. We are also in disagreement with condition number 3, so we're happy to hear that that was removed. I really don't need to say anything further on that. We did receive the letter from Mr. Schaefer on behalf of a neighbor expressing concerns and requesting that this application be denied. Again, we stand by the, we do appreciate their concern. We do stand by the city on this and recommend it for approval. Further, just for the record, there's a binding site plan that covers about 20 acres around this. The property that's proposed to be developed that you see here, as well as the property that Mr. Schaefer was referring to, is just west of this at the end of the cul-de-sac. It's all part of the same binding site plan. That binding site plan is bound by a set of covenants. It's, you know, outside of the city's jurisdiction, but those covenants
So they're private covenants, they're not?
there are private covenants, and they actually have stricter requirements on setbacks, and our proposal
Could
does
you-
consider that.
Could you detail the setbacks and then provide a little information on the landscaping that are being?
I will do my best to do that.
Okay.
There's another, I have another, somebody here, Mason Mendel with AHBL.
Okay.
He actually was a little bit more involved with this site plan. He might be able to speak a little bit better to it after me.
Okay.
But in general, the site back to the north, that's driven by the residential requirements. We have to,
I think it's a 15-foot is what the code said. In the overlay, that's why I wanted to check with you all.
I'm sorry I don't have that answer.
Okay.
But I do know that the covenants require a 30-foot setback on their frontage. And so
Okay.
that was an increased
And that would be where that cul-de-sac is viewed as the frontage?
frontage from Bedford or Midland, and Midland.
Okay, on both sides?
On both sides,
Okay.
correct. But I'll be available to answer any other questions as they come up tonight.
Okay. So that's 30 feet on Bedford and Midland, and then whatever the corridor overlay, which may be 15 feet on the side that's near the residences. So that sounds like, and I'll let your next.
Correct, yeah, I
man.
think Mason will be able to handle that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, I'm Mason Mendel with AHBL on behalf of Big Sky Developers.
And if you could spell your last name?
Mendel, M-E-N-D-E-L.
Okay, thank you.
And wouldn't you know it, the exhibit that showed the setbacks the most clearly I left in my truck, so I can bring it in very shortly. But from memory, the south setback we have there is 5 feet, is what's shown. I believe that's a 0 lot setback, but we left 5 feet.
Okay.
0 required, I should say. And then
So it'll be 30 on the Bedford, Midland, and then 5 feet on the south side.
the southern border, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the front setbacks, they may be 35 based on the CCRs. That's what I have in my notes at least. So I will confirm that though.
Okay.
And I can turn in can I submit some more information
Yeah,
tonight even with the
absolutely, and
setbacks
we'll have to
labeled?
keep the record on this open anyway, just for the SEPA piece of this. so.
Okay. Because I've got it handy, like I said, in my vehicle at the moment. So, and then the north, yes, I believe was 15 feet based on the IA1A2 overlay.
Okay, so I was
setback,
correct on
yeah.
that. Okay.
So I have that information handy, but not as handy as I'd like. So.
And then in terms of landscaping, so the city does have landscaping requirements. Do you have any details on that? I know it's finalized at the building permit phase and check for compliance with code, but.
Yeah, and my short answer is yes, our goal is to make this a nice looking, attractive site and to fully comply with all of the Pasco Municipal Code, including the I-1A2 overlay. We are intending to landscape this nicely and incorporate city comments as the site review and building permit applications are processed.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anything further from the applicant, or is this, okay. So at this point, we'll open this up for public comment. Is there anyone here who wished to provide testimony on the proposal? Yes.
I actually have a couple of questions in addition to.
If you could step forward and state your name for the record. And what I'll do is you can state the questions, and if the applicant wishes to address those, the applicant may do so. So you can go ahead.
Case Koster, Koster.
Thank you.
A neighboring property owner, as well as the owner of the other self-storage facility down the street. Although I'm not commenting from a competitive standpoint, more from a standpoint of making sure that this applicant would have to abide by the same set of rules that we had to abide by as far as the setbacks and materials. One of my questions is the fence along Bedford Street. What type of fencing is going to be required? My other question, I guess, is whether this is going to be, it says phase 1, so is this a project that's going to be built in stages, or it says phase 1 and phase 2, but then the properties on the east side, they look like they're not part of the mini storage. That's a whole different design, and they'll have roll-up doors facing the street. And as a property owner across the street, I object to that. We were being made to have our doors not be visible from the street, so that's kind of, I think, just making sure everybody plays by the same set of rules.
The record will be kept open on this, so if you have a copy of, say, the permit that had the requirements you were required to comply with, if you wish to do so, you can add that to the record.
Okay.
And just provide it by the planning department whenever the, probably be actually 4 weeks, but I'll announce it once we've concluded on this matter.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who wish to testify on this proposal tonight? Let the record reflect that there is not anyone who has indicated a wish to testify. Did either of you wish to address the questions that were just raised? If you could state your name again.
Caleb Stromstead, Octera Engineering. First question regarding the fencing. Where we can, the plan is to utilize the buildings as the screening. It'd be similar to what was done on the Chapel Hill mini storage that was just built right off of Chapel Hill Boulevard and I-82. You can see it from the freeway. They used just kind of concrete masonry to screen. Where we're actually going to have a fence, it would just be per city requirements. Typically, those are masonry block fence, but at this point, those will all be determined during site plan review. And then the second comment, obviously, we disagree with Mr. Koster denying request of the roll-up doors on Midland. I'm not aware of any city code that outright that does not allow that. It's a different use. Those are office buildings with a complementary shop. They're not just storage facilities. So the architectural features on Midland Lane will be compliant with the I-82 corridor overlay district, and it'll be aesthetically appeasing. And we'll go through the rendering process. And so the elevations were shown, and they're included in the
there
packet.
were some materials on that. Yeah, to help them out. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, if
So that would be for the interior. If we go back, it was probably the third sheet of Design West. There we go. So that's the elevation provided by the architect of
Okay.
what it'll look like facing Midland.
Okay. I'm not. Yeah, okay. Actually, I do have that exact page. Looks like. Yeah.
I believe that. Was there any other things I should comment on?
Those, let's see. Oh, phasing. There was a question in terms of phasing.
So phasing, the plan right now is to phase from the south to the north. So the southern units would be built first, and then likely what would happen is the entire site, the utilities, the infrastructure, the paving would all be done at once, and then the building pads would be developed in phases from the south to the north.
Okay, and so would building permits, it would progress in that sort of,
Correct.
it looks like it's numbered actually, with the on that particular sheet, phase 1 and phase 2, so,
Correct.
okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Yep.
Okay, is there anything else from staff on this?
No.
Okay, so SEPA determination has not yet issued on this proposal. I can't make a decision until we have that, and there may be comments on the SEPA as well that I would need to consider. So we will keep the record open, probably to allow for that process. I think the city's standard approach is to keep it open for 4 weeks. So through July 10th, I think, and I think there actually is a hearing examiner meeting next month. So any concerns with staff from just continue? Actually, I'll just continue it to July 10th. And that way, if there's anything I need to address, I can do it on the record at that point. And also, if the applicant has any additional detail on the landscaping and what will be provided, and not the level of detail that you'll have at the building permit review, but
Can I ask a question on process?
yeah, absolutely. Step forward just so we capture it.
Caleb Stromstead, could you explain what you said on process? Extend the public hearing until July 10th?
Yeah, and the reason for that is because I can't issue a decision until the State Environmental Policy Act review, the environmental review is completed, and the staff report indicates a DNS will probably be issued on that, but that hasn't happened yet. It's my understanding it'll happen in a day or two. If that's the ultimate threshold determination, staff makes that. I don't make that decision.
Open for public comment.
Well, there's public comment on if the public wishes to comment, they may provide comment on that threshold determination. So I would be taking a look at that threshold determination and any comment that's associated with that, and then that would inform my review on this proposal. So
Understand. I guess I'm used to that public comment period being open.
that is more typical. That's usually, yeah, that's kind of the typical way. But this is how as I understand, this is kind of the cities how they've usually done it. But
Okay.
yeah, so
Thank you for clarifying.
yeah. So just to clarify for the record, we're continuing this through the next hearing, which is July 10th, 2019, because I think looks like there are 2 matters on the agenda anyway, so we'll have a hearing anyway, so it probably makes the most sense to do that. Any questions from staff on that?
No questions.
Okay, and the hearing will be exact same place in 6 p.m., is that?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
And again, just for anyone who is here from the public who wish to provide any further documentation, I think there was, I had mentioned one item that might be useful for me. Staff may comment as well on both the SEPA and provide any additional material into the record and to provide it to the planning department, and they'll provide it to me to review. So I think with that, we've completed that matter for tonight. We'll move to the rezone. This is a proposal to rezone parcel. The applicant's Mr. Kinnaman from C1 to R1. Staff can go ahead and present on that.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Drummond. Darcy Borsier. The proposal is to request a rezone of the property addressed 527 West Bonneville Street from C1, which is retail business, to R1, which is low-density residential. The applicant's seeking this rezone in order to use the property for a residence or sell it as one. Now, the C1 zone prohibits dwelling units unless said dwelling units are actually above the main floor of a building that's intended to be used as commercial or some other use that's approved in the C1 zone. Other than that, dwelling units wouldn't be approved in the C1 zone. The structure on the property is a house which was built in 1923. and it was used as a residence, but it's impossible to tell for how long exactly. From 1971 until 1995, our records show that it was used as a halfway house or a work release facility. And then in 2012, there was a special permit granted for a church, and whoever the applicant was at the time, even though the special permit was granted, they never applied for occupancy of the building. So it was likely used as a church and a parsonage, illegally in the city, without the city's knowledge, even though they did get a special permit for it. And it's probably been used that way up until March of this year, when code enforcement actually discovered the situation. So the property has had a couple different zoning classifications. At one point it was zoned for an office use, and beginning at least in 1974, it's probably earlier than that, it was zoned C1. It's hard to know exact years because records, I just can't find records. So the property is designated mixed residential, so the proposal is in line with the comprehensive plan. And with that, are there any questions?
I don't have any questions at this time. I think I'd like the applicant to come up if the applicant is here.
John Kinnaman.
Thank you.
I really don't feel the need to address anything. I think it's pretty straightforward what
It
we're
did look
attempting
very
to do.
straightforward to me
And
as
therefore,
well.
I'm not going to necessarily take your time unless there's a reason for me to do that.
I do not actually have any specific questions on this particular one.
Okay,
So,
thank you very much.
just as a matter of procedure, you can, yeah. Is there anyone from the public who wished to testify on this proposal? Let the record reflect that there is not anyone here who wishes to provide testimony. So this one as well, I do have to keep the record open for the SEPA purposes. So we'll do the same thing that we did with the last proposal. And so I'll continue this matter to the next meeting, which will be on July 10th, 2019, 6 p.m., same location here. And then that will allow me to consider the SEPA review and any comments that come in on that. But this, as I noted, the proposal does seem relatively straightforward, but I do need to keep the record open just for SEPA purposes. So just to, well, yes, you have a question on procedure. If you can.
I'm John Kinnaman. I'm not a city employee, so I don't understand all of your terms. I'm just requesting if you could explain to me, what is this review that needs to be done?
Yeah, so Washington State has what's called the State Environmental Policy Act. And under that, certain projects have to undergo environmental review. And in this case, what I expect will be, what that means is that staff will probably issue what's called a determination of non-significance. And if that, in fact, is issued, it's their decision, not mine. What that means is the proposal does not have any what they call probable significant adverse impacts. And so that determination is taken and put in the record, and then can move forward. Sometimes if there are some impacts, mitigation will be added to the SEPA determination, and that becomes part of the proposal. But it's an added step in the process, and for some projects it can mean significant, additional mitigation and so forth. In this case, I would imagine, and again, I don't make the call on this, so I don't know, but it'll probably be a DNS or determination of non-significance that will issue.
Okay, so that process cannot be done until this one was done. Is that accurate?
So I'm because the project's not exempt, or the rezone request is not exempt, I can't make a decision on this, and it actually is a recommendation really, rather than a decision. The council makes the final decision until the SEPA review is completed.
Okay. Do I have to be here for that hearing?
No, you do not need to be here. If there are questions that come up, because I am continuing the hearing, we'll make arrangements so you have an opportunity to address those. Okay. But no, you don't have to take and be here for that. Okay. So, yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Is that any questions from staff on that?
I do have a question. Now, in a hypothetical situation, maybe not just with this rezone, but in the previous item, if a DNS is issued, is it still necessary to retain or continue the public comment period until the July 10th date?
I think it would be best to do that because there'll be comments possibly on SEPA. I think it's probably just easier to keep there probably isn't going to be any additional comment on this particular one. There might be. So I think we'll just keep the record open and we'll continue it exactly the way we did with the others. This one's a little different because it's a recommendation. So, but even so, I think it's best we'll just keep the record open and continue it and kind of follow the protocol on that, just to be on the kind of the conservative side. But I know it's an extra step, but that way we've kind of checked the boxes, so to speak. So, okay. So I think then anything else? Yes. 3 trips.
John Kinnaman, just one quick question in response to that. Does that mean additional time? Or is this all something that's still going to be dealt with next month?
So what'll happen is probably what'll happen, in theory, you could have an appeal and that would change it, but I think that's probably unlikely in this case, but I don't know, that's out of my hands. But in theory, the record would close on July 10th, I believe is what, July 10th. And then I would issue a recommendation within 10 days, probably won't take that long, but I'll issue a recommendation and then the final decision will be made by the city council shortly thereafter, but I don't have a date on that.
Okay,
so,
all right. Well, I have a contract on the property now for selling it. I would like to avoid losing that if I can at all. And so if there's any way to expedite any of this, I would appreciate it. But if there's not, there's not.
Yeah, what is your time frame on your
31st of July.
31st of July? Okay, so this would be, I guess it would depend. I'll let staff sort out kind of because the council would make the final call on this.
If I may, this item will go to the first council meeting in, not the first. We'll go to the first council meeting in July, which would be a Monday, so the first Monday, so I think that was July 1st. So you should get a definitive answer July 1st.
Well, I guess that it probably wouldn't go on the 1st if
of July. Okay, so
yeah. So when
it would still be before 31st.
So when would be the next meeting on there? So July, would their next meeting be July 8th then?
The city council meets on the first and third Mondays of each month. So July 1st and then 14 days after that will be their next meeting.
That's fine. That'll work.
Mm-hmm. Now, keep in mind, though, that the hearing is open until July 10th. So it may not be possible to get it to city council on the third Monday of July. So the date, the 1st, it'd be the 15th. July 15th. It may not be possible to get it to the 15th. So if there's a way to extend your contract, I would urge you to do that, at least by a couple of weeks.
So, and I would reiterate that. So, because there are some moving balls that are beyond the control, I think, of staff. And certainly, I mean, on my part, unless there's anything with SEPA that I need to further consider and so forth, I can issue a recommendation probably the next day. So there's no holdup on getting this before the council. And by the next day, I mean like the July 11th. So if that then allows enough time for it to go to council, it could. But yeah, I would reiterate what staff said, that there are some pieces that we may not be able to control, although I think an effort will be made to.
Well, I think Darcy has done very well. She's communicated with me very well by email. And so I think she could let me know if it looks like we're going to need to extend even after that July 10. Am I correct? And that might be the time for me to consider
coordinate with
this.
staff on kind of
Sure.
the nuance, the kind of the procedural pieces. And
Okay.
yeah, there are no guarantees on this, but
Understand.
ideally that's the process that'll unfold on this, because this is a pretty straightforward matter. So
Thank you.
yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Are we good on that one? Fun. Okay. All right. We're moving to the final matter on the agenda. This is a rezone from R2, originally proposed to Industrial 1, and it looks like there's agreement to move that to Commercial 3.
Thank you, Ms. Drummond. And this request is just a little bit unusual, but the address for the site is 28 A Street and contains only 2,200 square feet. As you can tell by the zoning map contained in the staff report and on display at the screen here, it's property that is a bit of a spot zone. It's a former railroad house site. The house no longer exists. It makes up several parcels that are currently used for industrial purposes. Industrial zoning exists to the north on the north side of A Street, and then to the east and to the west on the north side of A Street as well. The staff report has developed a number of proposed findings and analysis and recommends that due to the comprehensive plan designation of commercial for this site, in spite of the existing industrial 1 zoning, that a zone change to C3 be recommended for approval. The applicant is aware of this recommendation, and you received a paper copy of their concurrence.
I did, yes.
And with that, I'll be available for questions.
Okay. And you marked, as well as the adjoining lot 1, block 4 of Fans Addition to the east. So
Yes.
are there actually 2 parcels up for rezone? Or it looks like that's what the staff recommendation is. I just want to,
That's correct.
okay. And is that the same property owner?
It might be, it is. Okay, the applicant has indicated
I'll have
it
the
is.
applicant
Yeah.
clarify, make sure it's the same property owner and all that.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. All right. Is the applicant's here? Yes. If you can step forward. You can state your name for the record.
Good evening. I'm Dalton Walker with Wave Design Group on behalf of Elbystone Properties. Yes, so the owners own that larger chunk to the northwest that's zoned I-1, and they own that little piece that is called out right there in front of you.
The
And-
adjoining lot 1, block 4 of Fans Addition to the east, I think is how it's described in the staff report.
Yes. Yes. So
And can you point out, actually, so that lot 1, that's the one that's just to the right there on the screen? Am I understanding that right? Or does that red encompass everything?
the red encompasses everything. The yellow R2 to the right, that is, I mean, that's the same property as everything around it. So I don't know why it would be zoned differently or what that process
But
would be.
the box right there includes this lot 1, block 4, Fans Addition, this added property. Is that?
I guess I don't understand your question. Is that little piece of the east?
Yeah, because it looks like there's, I mean, just based on the staff report, and I wanted to clarify, it looked like there are 2 lots that are actually being rezoned here. I just want to make sure
I believe it's one.
I'll have staff clarify that.
And maybe I can ask a clarifying question. If you're looking at the aerial right now, it shows the site indicated in red on the
Yes.
screen. So the property immediately to the east of that red indicated site, that is part of this larger parcel as well.
Correct.
And owned by the
Elbystone Properties.
yeah.
Okay,
correct.
and that little piece to the east is also being rezoned or
We are recommending that it
recommending
also
as
be
part of it,
included,
so it's all
yes.
consistent. Got it.
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure I was understanding the layout.
So as the applicant, I wasn't aware that was not rezoned with the whole thing around it. And so, yes, we would
Are you a
request that
fan,
it.
are you support that then?
Yes, very,
Okay.
yeah. So on this property, we've had some back and forth with the city in regards to I-1 and C3. And it wasn't until a week ago that we were approached saying that we should go C3. So I had some conversations back and forth with my client. And we didn't like that because we just wanted all consistent. We wanted I-1. Once you start bringing a commercial, I mean, you have a C1 right there, but there's not really a C3 for a while. So we wanted to keep it consistent. Once you get into C3, then we start dealing with certain commercial design standards that we have a building in permit right now under review, of course, pending this rezone, that will be in conflict with any commercial design standards. I do have communication with John Adams from the, Jeff Adams with the city regarding this, saying that our proposed permit can go as is. But above all, we would like industrial, one. If we can't have it, if there's no way around it, then C3 is acceptable if it meets our proposed.
Yeah, I
permits.
think the reason for staff changing it is just kind of from the comp plan language, and so if to change it, you need to change the comp plan
Yeah, we need a
designation. I think
CPA for that if we
yeah.
were to go all the way to I-1. And so my confusion, I guess, or a little bit of frustration is this was only brought up to us pretty last minute. And so we kind of, I want to say probably a week ago, Jeff had approached us about it, the conflict in that. But up until that point, it was pretty much understood that that would be okay. So I guess that's a little what we didn't agree with.
And I guess I'm not going to get probably involved in terms of what the, what the individual project permitting standards and all that would be. So I'm just looking at the rezone and comp plan criteria. And staff can clarify any of that if need be.
But I guess that would be all the concerns I had. Did you have any questions for me?
I do not have any questions, no.
All right. Thank you.
Is there anyone from the public who wish to testify on this proposal? Let the record reflect that there is not anyone here who is indicating a wish to testify. Does staff have any further clarification on this proposal?
No, we do not.
Okay. And it looks like same thing on SEPA on this one. So we'll just, as with the last two proposals, we'll continue this to the July 10 hearing. SEPA determination, determination probably a DNS is what the staff report indicated, but staff makes that call, probably be issued within the next few days. And then I will review that, any comments that come in, and we'll reconvene here on the 10th to briefly address this matter. But I do not, I don't have any other questions for staff on that. Are there any questions on procedure? Is that? Nope. Okay. Any questions on procedure on that the last SEPA piece? It's from the applicant.
Dalton Walker. Yes, I do have a question. So we submitted the SEPA along with all of this. So
That would probably be the SEPA checklist.
yeah, the SEPA
Yeah.
checklist and the write-up and everything.
Yep.
And, so we're waiting for that to be reviewed. Is that
Staff's probably, they've already reviewed it because they've
Okay.
indicated what they expect to issue. And it doesn't sound like there's anything that would probably change that analysis, but again, that's a staff determination. But what they do, they have to document that, check the box, so to speak. So they have to issue the actual DNS document, and then there is an opportunity for public comment on that. So.
Okay. My question, I guess, is so it's depending on this, your recommendation or the council until they can give it that DNS or the review of it.
Yeah, so that, like I said, I know SEPA gets a little confusing sometimes, but yeah, the staff will probably issue a DNS, and as I mentioned earlier, what a DNS means is it's the Stanford determination of non-significance, means there's no probable significant adverse impacts associated with a proposal. So it's
But that can't happen until all of this happens, or I guess my question is,
there's
could it
nothing
have happened
holding up
earlier?
issuance of the DNS at this point.
Okay.
So yeah, it's my understanding that you've submitted everything that staff needs in order to issue something. So it's balls in their court to get that out, and then once they get that out, I'll take a brief look at it and then reconvene and get a recommendation out, as with the last rezone proposal.
Also, another, can I say more on that?
Oh, absolutely.
So the whole point of this rezone is really to join the parcels. And so it would, I guess I haven't ever been aware of multiple zonings on parcels, and I know the cities and municipalities are trying to get away from that. So I would
Okay.
almost.
Yeah, no, it makes sense to consolidate the zoning, particularly from what I'm hearing on the proposal, but sometimes that happens where you have, and you can have any parcel itself that can be split zoned, and that can be a challenge to be deal with sometimes, but it looks like some effort is being made to clean up things on both your part and staff's part. So.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep, thank you. All right, anything further on that proposal? Okay, are there any other procedural questions from anyone on tonight? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you all.